Good morning, everyone. We will begin the morning service of the Miroku Association headquarters, asking God and Meishu-sama for protection and the permission to participate today in the divine plan of constructing a paradise on this earth. Let us pray together the Amatsu-Norito, Prayer of Heaven, followed by the Miroku Prayer. Please stand. 高天原にかむすまります。かむろぎかむろみのみこともちて、すめみおやかむいざなぎのみことをつくしのぎむかのたちはなのおどのあぎはらにみそぎはらいたもうときになりませるはらいどの神たちもろもろのまがごと積みけがれを洗いたま清めたまえとまおすことのよしを天つかみ国つかみやおよろずの神たちともに雨の淵駒の耳振り立ててきこしめせとかしこみもまおす弥勒を三上守りたまえ先はえたまえ弥勒を三上守りたまえ先はえたまえ教えみよや主の神守りたまえ先はえたまえ教えみよや主の神守りたまえ先はえたまえかながらたまちはえませかながらたまちはえませ Great God of light, creator and giver of all life, in accordance with your divine will, long age of night draws to an end. Your radiant divine light, shining evermore brilliantly, awakens the dawn of the glorious age of light, a time long awaited by all humanity. We thank you for guiding us to your divine plan and for the privilege of channeling and receiving Johrei. May our spirits and bodies be illuminated and purified as we live your truth given to us by Meishu-sama. Make us pure and effective instruments of your divine light, so that we may serve you and all those with whom we come in contact. May paradise on earth be realized, with health, peace, and prosperity, a reality in our lives. Great God of light, bless and protect us. Radiate our souls with your divine light, so that we may truly become instruments of your great plan. Please be seated. We will now receive group Johrei.
And God, Miroku bless you.
Johrei is now concluded. We will now listen to a reading from Meishu-sama's teachings. Makoto. No matter how hard and steep the road may be, I can walk onward with happiness and ease if I have the staff of love to lean upon. The integrity of those who have no faith in God is shallow and superficial. Those with faith have true integrity. Though we may speak thousands of words smoothly, if they do not come from hearts full of Makoto, they are empty and powerless. The vibratory power of speech can cause miracles. The universe is filled with ether, in which its basic sounds, with all their variations in frequency, are in continual vibratory motion. These are the soundless sounds and voiceless voices filling the ether, which human ears cannot hear. By means of its frequencies, all things in the universe come into existence, and they in turn emit certain wavelengths of sound. The words we utter are impressed upon the ether that surrounds us, creating vibrations that influence the spiritual realm. Noble or positive words emit high vibrations, which diminish the clouds in the spiritual world, while ugly or negative words emit low vibrations, which increase the clouds. The wavelengths of the words that convey good and loving thoughts are in attunement with the law of truth, virtue, and beauty. They are pleasing to the human ears because they penetrate the mind and contact the soul, the center of awareness. Conversely, bad and hateful words do not reach the soul, but stop at the mind. It is also important to note that it is not only the vibrations of the words themselves that determine their effect, but also the degree of purity of the spiritual being uttering them. The purer the soul, the more powerful will be the vibrational waves emitted by the words being uttered. Therefore, we must always do our utmost to raise our vibrations to a higher plane so our words will have greater power.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the morning service of the Miroku Association headquarters. This morning, I want to share with you the faith experience of Maria Luisa Cunha Guedes from the Camaçari Johrei Center in Brazil. Maria Luisa is 8 years old and was introduced to our church through her mother. She was undergoing a purification and went to church almost every day to receive Johrei and give service. In a few months, she was well and was enchanted with our practice of faith. She became very happy when she received the child locket, the shoko, with her brother in July of that year. With the arrival of the pandemic, she gave service at her home. She watched our daily online services, channeled Johrei to her parents and her brother, offered prayers, listened to the teachers of Meishu-sama, took care of their plants and flowers, and ate healthier foods. She dedicated with great faith, mainly because she was able to prove the power of Johrei during a high fever she had in 2020. Her mother gave her a lot of Johrei during the night, and after sweating a lot, she recovered without taking any medication. On another occasion, she was playing with a little friend who fell and cried in pain. Maria Luisa channeled Johrei to her friend, and so she got better. She noticed that with the change in her diet, her condition of atopic dermatitis, which she has had since she was a baby, is decreasing, and her skin is getting increasingly beautiful. With the gradual reopening of the Johrei Center since the pandemic started, she was able to give service at the church again. In gratitude for the happiness of her family, she makes a daily donation with the money she gets from her piggy bank. Today, she became healthier and a child with a spiritual orientation. Maria Luisa is very grateful to God and Meishu-sama for all the blessings she received, and also grateful to her parents and brother for all their affection and protection. Very powerful and very cute at the same time, this faith experience of Maria Luisa. And another experience I want to share with you, this one is from Nzi Chensele Anik. She's from the Ngamakoso Johrei group in Brazzaville, Republic of Congo. It's the first time I share a faith experience from the Republic of Congo. Nzi Chensel has been a member since November 21st of this year, and she gives service with Sangetsu flower arranging. She became acquainted with our church in Congo through a regular visitor. She was a believer in a church that dealt with spiritism for many years, where she reached the level of missionary. According to that church, they were laying on hands to expel Satan, who was causing suffering, sickness, in addition to various other miseries. People found a temporary cure through hair healing, but after some time, their sufferings returned with greater intensity. She herself began to suffer from mysterious spiritual attacks. She heard voices that promised to kill her, had strong and constant stomach pains, headaches, insomnia, and stress. Finally, she lost her baby after having an unsuccessful C section. Because of this suffering, she stopped praying and believing in God. All her thinking and feelings became negative, seeking revenge for whomever harmed her. She even asked God to do justice, taking the life of those who were responsible to kill her son, the baby that was not born. As her negative feelings increased, so did her suffering. The pastors and other members from the church she belonged to went to her house to pray intensively, but nothing changed. Even the senior pastor left the church in Bakongo and went to Ngamakoso to give her special spiritual help. He prophesied that she was suffering from spiritual attacks that needed to be overcome through specific treatments, otherwise, she would lose her life in a short time. A certain amount of money for the treatment and some goods were required. As she prepared for these requirements, she came across Magali, a Johrei member, who told her about the miracles of Johrei. The next day, Magali appeared at her house with a couple of members who channeled Johrei to her whole family and placed flowers in the rooms of her house. That day they all slept well, without torments, and the next day, because of that change, Nzi, her husband, and two children made the firm decision to get to know better our church and visited the Johrei group in Ngamakoso in October of this year. They were welcomed by a missionary who, after listening carefully to them, guided them in our basic practice of faith. Following the guidance received, she noticed that in a few days, the negative thoughts and feelings ended and her health returned to normal. Even her wound from the C section, which was difficult to heal, has healed completely. With that result, she was guided to express gratitude with a special donation, and she assumed the commitment to dedicate to saving her ancestors by guiding others to our church. In an interview she had with the minister, he showed her the consequences of raising one's hand to heal other people when the person does not have the ohikari. The possible negative results can come from such a practice, and the minister showed her the difference that exists between members of our church and the so called folk healers. She began to give service and receive Johrei with a desire to become a member to better serve the divine word. It was at this time that they received a call from a pastor of Bakongo. in order to attend the church, and her minister encouraged them to go to this meeting that the pastor invited them. On the agreed day, she and her husband went there. When the pastor arrived, he received them gladly and immediately submitted them in prayer, closing his eyes, as has been the practice of that church. However, during the prayer, Nzi had an interesting vision, as if the picture of Meishu-sama was hanging on the wall of that church. After the prayer, the pastor said that their problem had already been handed over to God because he saw a great light that surrounded them as they prayed, and that there was no need to do anything else. With the words of the pastor, it became clear to Ninzi that he was referring to Johrei. This strengthened her conviction in Johrei and to continue in our church to serve others. On the 21st of November of this year, she was blessed to receive the sacred Ohikari together with her husband. On the same day, she did the enshrinement of ancestors, Sorei Saishi, and materialized a donation of gratitude, asking Meishu-sama to utilize her along with her ancestors, now in full capacity as a member. She made a firm decision to intensify her dedication and began to distribute more flowers to neighbors and co-workers. She has experienced several blessings, and she would like to report some of them. A neighbor who was constantly stricken with severe malaria started to receive Johrei in her house. Nzi once a week visits her neighbor's house, placing flowers, saying prayers, channeling Johrei, and together they set up a vegetable garden in her house. Her neighbor and her children's health improved considerably. Another neighbor before was quite skeptical about our church and declined flowers and Johrei. One day around 9 p.m., he came to her house in search excuse me, of Johrei and flowers because he was distressed because of a pain in his leg that he could not bear, even taking medications. He promptly received Johrei and accepted the flowers of light, feeling relieved. The next day, he visited her again to express his gratitude as his health was completely restored. At her work, a co-worker began to feel ill with severe pain in her legs, and she didn't believe in Johrei. Ninzi rubbed the balm on her leg to relieve the pain, but to no avail. Soon after, Ninzi channeled Johrei to her, and shortly thereafter, she got completely better. A man who owed money to Ninzi for over 8 years paid her back naturally without her reminding him. In fact, she had already forgot about the money she lent to him. To express her gratitude, she used the same amount to materialize a special donation towards the center's construction fund. She now assists 5 non-members, 4 of whom are candidates for the next Ohikari presentation ceremony, and she also participates in the flowers distribution group activity. She understands now that experiencing miracles increases our conviction to serve Meishu-sama. Her commitment is to further spread to others Johrei and Meishu-sama's teachings. She and her husband are committed to doing everything possible so that a Johrei center is established in where they live, because they believe that our church is the Noah's Ark of our time. She's very thankful to God, Meishu-sama, and her ancestors for allowing her to be introduced to this wonderful path of salvation. Thank you very much for listening to these faith experiences, for attending this morning service. I wish a very wonderful day. Thank you very much.
This brings to a conclusion our morning service. Thank you everyone for joining us. We wish you a very blessed day.